It being 6 p.m., we'll go ahead and call the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to order for December 15th, 2020. The county clerk has verified the roll. We do have a quorum. All members are present this evening. So first items on the agenda are the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. If you could please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
and to
republic
the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God,
liberty.
indivisible, with liberty and justice
The
for all.
invocation by Supervisor Locke.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We ask for your presence to be with us as we meet tonight. Inspire our thoughts, discussions, and ideas as we seek to work together. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Supervisor Locke. Please be seated. Next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt this evening's agenda. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Albrecht. Supervisor Albrecht? I'll call on Vice Chairperson Egan to make a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve this evening's agenda as adopted.
There's a motion and there's a second. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next item, and that's the time during each meeting we give an opportunity from anyone from the public to speak on any item on this evening's agenda or any item under county jurisdiction. I'll go ahead and open it up to the public for anyone who wishes to speak. If you do wish to speak, if you could please just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. I'll go ahead then to call on you in succession and ask you to state your name and address for the record. First, I'll call on the individual, Pat Piper. If you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Pat Piper, 2054 Shawnee Lane, Oshkosh.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My comments tonight are made in regard to the November 17th, 2020 vote on Amendment 1108. Where 20 county supervisors voted to suspend our constitutional rights and liberties, as well as to give away our democratic processes to an unelected person, our county health officer. It was a dark day for our county where 20 supervisors ignored their sacred oath of office, the oath of office you all swore allegiance to. The will of the people was overwhelmingly to vote down Amendment 1108. It's recorded in the minutes listed in your packet. The act of voting on this piece of legislation, which is emblematic of our cherished tradition of majority rule, must never be formulated from a position of unwarranted fear or compromised by a misguided allegiance to the untested science of the moment. We trusted you to make these difficult and objective decisions in our stead. We are all struggling with our own mental health crisis on some level. The pandemic has intensified mental health issues due to prolonged lockdowns, isolation from family members, unemployment, financial concerns, and a lack of school structure for our kids and grandkids. You will be remembered for the lives lost under any of your unjust edicts or those from an unelected official who manages to proclaim orders are reasonable and necessary while citing untested science of the moment. Board members claim a necessary and reasonable test be applied to any order put forth by the county health officer. As the county boards review and vote, you are a legislative body where evidence for and against an issue may simply be presented and voted upon. In your forum, evidence is not subjected to the vigorous examination and cross-examination present in a judicial court proceeding. You will claim that after the citation is issued, one may contest it in court, and that is our judicial review. The damage will have already been done to people, reputations, and businesses. We will have suffered under the citation long before it sees the inside of a courtroom. Your legal representation in these court proceedings will be paid by our tax dollars. Our legal defense will be paid with money out of our pocket if we have any money after our job is lost or our business is forced to shut down. The science of the moment must not just simply be considered reasonable or necessary by a legislative body. You claim there is a need to act quickly in these cases. You will claim speed is essential to your proceedings under emergency conditions. If this is your claim, why did it take months to write and pass 1108? Political decisions based in the hysteria of we must do something invariably end up producing unintended and oftentimes harmful consequences. And it is always we, the people, who are made to suffer. But sadly, I fear you will simply sanction these edicts and saddle us to suffer unjustly under their burdens, as you so casually tossed our unalienable rights into the trash. Read our history. We demand a government that works for us, not one that dictates to us. There is no emergency health exception clause in our Constitution. All of you breathe the free air secured by bloodshed and lives lost by many veterans who came before us and still live among us. November 17, 2020 was the day 20 of you spit in the eye of every veteran, past, present, and future. Many of you avoided your sacred responsibility by voting against the will of your constituents, and instead you replaced it with a misguided ideology relying upon untested science of the moment and the misguided desire to just do something. As a retired police supervisor and a Marine Corps veteran, I call these lines of reasoning fallacious and without honor. When you act to subvert our Constitution, I consider those acts as treasonous to our constitutional republic. Our Constitution, secured through the bloodshed and lives lost by our fellow countrymen and women, was not written to restrain the behavior of citizens. It was written to restrain the government's behavior. There is no emergency health exception clause in our Constitution. Coincidentally, 229 years ago today, the United States ratified our Bill of Rights, guaranteeing our God-given rights. Many of you have, how many of you have ever comprehensively read our Constitution and its amendments? How many of you right now know how many enumerated amendments there are? I hope my comments tonight and these questions get you at least to read the documents you swore upon your oath to uphold and support and defend. In closing, after some time passes and calmer minds prevail, you 20 will be judged for your actions against the will of the people and against our Constitution. Hopefully, voters will ultimately hold each of you accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next speaker is Jennifer Kozer. If you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, if you could be a little closer to your mic, we might be able to hear you a little bit better, but we can hear you.
Okay, is that better now?
Yes, that's better. If you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
Jennifer Kozer, Winnebago.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak tonight. I wanted to say that I agree with everything that Pat Piper just said. I thought what he said was excellent regarding the vote on 1108 last month. I wanted to let you guys know that is an unlawful, what you voted on is to pass is unlawful, and it actually violates the color of law, which is Title 18, Section 242 of the U.S. Constitution. So I urge you to re-look at that and vote again to overturn 1108. Also, I wanted to speak with you about the resolution that you're voting on tonight to create a Diversity Affairs Commission. Before you vote on this, I please urge you to give more information on this to the community. The resolution is not very specific. It doesn't really say what this commission is going to do. For example, it says you're going to create and update a strategic plan and bylaws to guide and support the commission's mission. Well, what is the mission of the Diversity Affairs Commission? I can't find any information on that. Also, it said under duties and responsibilities would be to function as leaders and or co-leaders for the core strategy of the Commission's strategic plan. What is the Commission's strategic plan? I just feel that this resolution is not very specific, and it does not really say what the overall goal of this commission is to do, and we need more specifics. So before you vote on this, I urge you to give more information to the community about this, and maybe hold off on this until people can have a chance to learn what this is really about. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand.
I don't know how to raise my Zoom hand.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call you. I believe Tanisha Alvarado. Please go ahead if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tanisha Alvarado, and I'm at 939 Grand Street in Oshkosh.
Please go ahead.
I'm speaking on tonight on behalf of the that proposal, the resolution for creating a diversity affairs commission. I wanted to just voice my opinion on how I am for that and how I feel that there is a definite need for the commission. If you, those of you that have looked at it and reviewed it will see that it's all about wanting to help foster diversity leadership that will attract and retain young adults in our communities. It is about promoting equal and fair access to public services, promoting school success for minority groups of children in the K-12 educational system. And therefore, I just believe that, I know that it may not seem as clear of what the Diversity Commission will be doing, but for someone like myself who lives in our community, has been here for 4 years, and I'm a part of multiple diversity and equity committees that were formed for the Oshkosh Area School District, as well as for the Oshkosh Area Boys and Girls Club. I feel that it will be an opportunity to help guide some of our younger people, to include them in the building of our community, because there's multiple minority groups, and from my own experience living here, it has been difficult to find others to connect with, simply because I haven't seen a lot of community involvement except for one event. And then of course there was a diversity statement that was adopted with the council a few years back, but since 2 years ago I haven't seen any events publicly or unilaterally done within the community to promote minority togetherness. I just would like to see that this commission be taken, be voted upon tonight, that it is something that we look into doing to help Oshkosh grow as a community and make others feel included that are coming from different areas of, such as the African American population, Hispanic population, Hmong population. It would just help us all become better connected if we can share that, and especially for our students that are struggling to maintain a place in society here, it'll be easier for them, us as a community, to support them in their endeavors as minority students and help them to stay in our community after they graduate high school. If we promote them and allow them to, to express themselves more openly with their different cultures and ethnicities that we have. That's all.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand.
I would like to speak.
Please go ahead if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mi Yang. I lived at 2825 Prairiewood Drive in Oshkosh. I'd like to speak to Resolution 107-122020, Create Diversity Affairs Commission. I have lived here for over 30 years, and I noticed that the Winnebago County not only has grown in population, but also has grown with more and more of people of colors and cultures. And it is important to ensure that Winnebago County is an open, inclusive, and diverse place to live and work. We need to have ways to understand, communicate, and promote all cultures and embrace our diversity. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? I'll ask one last time, is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak this evening? Hearing no further call-ins, we'll go ahead and close that portion of the evening, and we'll move on to the next item, which is correspondence. For that, I'll call on Clerk Ertmer.
Let's see, we only have 2 resolutions from other counties this evening. The first one is from Eau Claire County, requesting the Wisconsin State Legislature to convene a special session to provide COVID-19 direction for the state of Wisconsin. That's forwarded to the Legislative Committee. And then you have a resolution from the County of Monroe, and their resolution is in support of increased county child support funding. That is also forwarded to the Legislative Committee, and that's all.
Thank you, Clerk Ertmer. Next, we'll move on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes from the November 17th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion or any changes from any county board supervisor? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, or go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, that motion carries. Moving on down to the next item, the county executive's report, followed by the county executive's appointment. I'll call on Executive Harris. One moment, Executive Harris, we just want to make sure your mic's unmuted.
Can you hear me
It's
now?
unmuted.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I just want to say that the constitutionality of health officers issuing and enforcing orders has been tested numerous times over the last century and has been consistently upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm going to leave it at that. Tonight, what I want to focus on is 2 longtime committee members that will be leaving the county family. Dale Witzke on October 8th, 1996, was appointed by Jack Steinhilber to the Veteran Service Commission. And after 24 years of service, Dale will attend his final Veteran Service Commission meeting on Wednesday, December 16th at 1 p.m. Prior to serving on the Veteran Service Commission, Dale served on the Winnebago County Board from 1986 to 1992. And Dale also served his country in the Air Force from October 14th, 1953 to October 23rd, 1957. Thank you, Dale, for all your valuable service. We also have another board member who served on committees for a long time, Jim Kazakowski, who served on the county board from 1992 until 2008. And he served nearly 30 years as chairman of the Human Service Board and its predecessors. And Jim has also served on the Lakeland Care District Board from its inception until that board was dismembered. But Jim will be retiring and leaving the Human Service Board in the near future. And that's what I'd like to comment on today.
Thank you. Please, we'll go next with the county executive's appointments.
We have a number of appointments. And the first one is the new administrator for Parkview Health Center. It's Kara Gruber. And Kara may be in the audience tonight, I'm not sure.
I'm here.
And perhaps we could allow Kara to give a brief introduction of herself. Her resume is attached to the appointment.
Absolutely. Ms. Gruber, do you want to give some comments? Your mic is open.
Sure. I just want to, I guess, thank you all for.
If you could please go ahead and try to speak a little more closely to your mic, just so individuals can hear you a little bit better.
Okay, is this better?
That was better for a moment.
Okay. Technical difficulties.
Certainly understandable.
Just want to say thank you for choosing me to take the role of administrator at Parkview. I actually have my resume to review, so that's it. I'm excited to meet everybody and get started.
We've had some difficulty hearing you, Ms. Gruber. Okay, looks like she's had some technical difficulties, but we do have that appointment this evening, so I'd ask for a motion and a second for the appointment to the administrator of Parkview.
Snyder, District 35, move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, or raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Ms. Gruber. We certainly look forward to working with you in this capacity in the future. And certainly thanks for being here this evening. We'll go on with the next appointments, Executive Harris.
Yes, I have 2 reappointments to the Human Service Board. These are 3-year terms which will expire December 31st, 2023 for Michael Norton and Stephanie Spellman.
Is there a motion for both appointments to the Human Services Board?
So moved.
There's
Second.
a motion and a second to appoint both individuals to the Human Services Board. Any discussion? We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next appointment.
I have a citizen appointment to the Human Service Board, and subject to your approval, I'm appointing Harold Singstock to fill the balance of the term for Jim Kazakowski and the 3-year term which will expire December 31st, 2023.
Is there a motion for the appointment to the Human Services Board of Harold Singstock?
So moved.
There's a motion and there was a second. Once again, do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next appointments.
I have a number of appointments to the Local Emergency Planning Commission. I have Kaylin Van Snappen, Tracy Miller, Jared Phillips, Todd Sweeney, Jared Tutro, Beth Erdman, and Jean Wallen. And Mr. Van Stempen will replace Rep. Mike Rohrcast for the balance of his term. And Mr. Phipps will replace Nick Bartlett, whose term had expired. And the others are 3-year terms, which will expire December 31st, 2023.
Is there a motion to approve the appointment to the Local Emergency Planning Commission? There's a motion and there is a second. Any discussion? Once again, do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the final appointments.
I have 2 reappointments to the Winnefox Library Board, Elizabeth Irish and Catherine Frood.
So moved.
There's a motion and there is a second to both appointments to the Winnefox Library Board of Trustees. Any discussion? Seeing none, once again, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Very
That's
good.
the end of my appointments. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Executive Harris. Moving on down to the next item, that's County Board Chairman's report. Not too much to provide, but want to make sure everyone knows no one is excused tonight. So all members, all 36 members are present this evening. Also want to let the board know that we do have a special orders session for the first Tuesday in January. So that would be January 5th. For a number of department heads that would have presentations related to capital projects on that agenda. And then just wanted to do a quick shout out to a number of individuals. I think we all know it's been a difficult year. We all have our own stories behind it, but I guess I want to particularly thank public health for all those efforts over the past year in the pandemic. I want to particularly thank the first responders, police, firefighters, EMS for all their efforts. And frankly, I want to thank all of what we all know as a term of essential workers, right? Folks we see every day at the gas stations and at the grocery stores. I will tell you all that, and I think we all probably can say the same thing, but these last 9 months or so have given me a renewed appreciation for the role, frankly, that everyone plays and how important they are. So I guess I wanted to make sure I truly said thank you to all those individuals. We've all had a difficult time with this pandemic, but you know, fortunately, I think we're beginning to see some light. We know it's not over yet. Obviously, it's not over yet. But I think there's light that we all can see over the next year. There are going to be flickers. There's going to be flickers of that light at different times. But there's going to be light nonetheless. And so all I'd ask is that we all continue to pull together as a community, recognize the efforts of each other as we continue to move through this. So I guess I just wanted to share those thank yous and appreciation all those folks and everyone out there. And then I guess I leave it with certainly wishing everyone a wonderful Christmas and holiday season and a happy new year. It'll be a new year for all of us when we see each other again, so January 5th. So I hope you all have a wonderful and truly a safe holiday with all your family and friends. So with that, that will conclude my remarks. So we do have one presentation this evening. That's a presentation on the purchase of microwave network equipment by Sheriff Motz and Captain Lara Vendola. So I'll turn it over to Sheriff Motz and Captain Vendola.
I will be turning this over to Captain Lara Vendola, and she will give you the presentation. But this is a project that's an integral part of our radio system, and it's also part of our link to Outagamie County. I'll turn it over to her.
All right, so I think if I share my screen, I can share screen. Okay. I think I got it. Yes? Almost. Okay. Sorry about that. And I'm gonna get rid of my faces there. Well, oh, that's not me. Is that you? Doctors in the house. Okay, thanks. Okay, so, all right, so just real briefly, this is going to be part of the 2021 CIP project. And this, as a CIP, it requires a presentation. And so we're going to jump on board and do the first one for 2021 CIP before you start seeing a whole bunch of them the next couple of months. So in simplest terms, the microwave system is truly what the public safety radio system is for Winnebago County. All of the public safety entities within the county use this radio system, all fire, police, EMS, and within Winnebago County, it's not just simply first responder agencies, it's also all the departments within the county. The highways, facilities are big users, public health department, emergency management, DA's office, they all share the system. Within Winnebago County total, with all the police and fire agencies, we have about 1,500 units that are subscribed to our system and that use it every single day. Just briefly, for 2019, the system had 1.8 million radio transmissions with an average of 11 seconds. Now, it doesn't seem like 11 seconds is very long when a lot of those transmissions are very short, such as somebody saying 10-4 or okay. When you average those all out together, that's quite a lot of talking that happens within Winnebago County. Just a little bit of history on where we are with our system. Some of you that have been on the board for quite some time may remember that between 2011 and 2012, Winnebago County purchased quite a bit of radio equipment, and it was a requirement of federal government's narrow banding mandate to happen by 2013. So at that time, we invested $5 million for radio infrastructure and an additional $5.5 million for those 1,500 subscriber units that I just mentioned. However, we actually, at that time, we paid for all the radio systems and all the radios for every public safety agency in the county, all the police, all the fire. Going forward, though, I'll just add that we do need to replace those as well. So you will see another CIP project about this system from between 23 and 25 for about an additional $2 million. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that that's coming. But right now, today, we are talking about the microwaves, which is part of the system itself. When that narrow banding mandate occurred for 2013, we recognized that we had a shared system prior to this. Pieces had been shared with Outagamie County. We entered into an agreement with Outagamie County at that time to continue to share the integral infrastructure within our two counties. And we are in that agreement for another 10 years until 2031. When we replaced as much as we could in 2011 and 12, not everything at that time was replaceable. We opted to pick the pieces that had to be upgraded to meet the federal mandate, but we knew full well that that wasn't going to be everything. We have additional pieces that are being replaced in capital in 2021, and those are some smaller components, which leaves basically these microwave pieces that are left. The Astro system itself is a Motorola component system, and you may recall last year we signed a 10-year maintenance agreement where they can upgrade most of the hardware components, software components within that radio system. It's a 10-year maintenance agreement for $5 million. This stuff is not cheap, that is for sure. And they can upgrade and repair and replace pieces as needed. When we talked to Motorola about that maintenance agreement last year, we asked for them to include the microwaves within that quote and within that contract. And they essentially said no, they couldn't do it because the microwaves they knew were at end of life and end of support, and they couldn't make that investment, and they knew that we would have to replace them. So we convinced them to convince the company to give us one more year of maintenance into 2021. They begrudgingly did it because they can't guarantee that their products are going to work if there's any repair that needs to happen. So we know that the components are no longer made. There might be pieces somewhere in some warehouse, maybe in Utah, if we need a part, but it's real difficult, and they're real difficult to come by because the stuff just isn't being made anymore for these parts. When I'm talking about a microwave, it's what's on top of the radio towers that you see. It's the big flat piece, the big dome looking thing, and then all of the antennas that come off of it. Those are what we're talking about that have to get replaced. And again, they're not cheap. It's not a small project. So we have 4 towers with 4 links on top of each one, with links on top of each of the 4. And Sandpit, Fairview, Sunnyview, those are the pictures I just showed, and Poygan. And the Fairview site is the one that links to Outagamie and that we share the system with. Just to give a visual, those are where the towers are that we own in Winnebago County, and those are the pieces that we have to replace. The microwaves themselves operate in a circuit or a loop. So if it's raining really hard in one area of the county and not in another, we're able to have basically the path follow, either essentially goes around the circle from one direction or the other. So we're able to grab the redundancy with our system. There is the ability for the system to overload, but thankfully we share with Outagamie, so when that happens, it's usually not noticeable. You know, I can think of a few times over the course of history where it was noticeable. The most recent one was the super heavy windstorm from 2018 that affected North Outagamie County and further north into the state, much worse than Winnebago did. And when that happens, the system has a way for parsing out who gets what section of the data fields and gave it all to Outagamie that day. We know that we are data heavy. We also have fiber that has redundant backup for some of the systems, but it also carries a lot of the underlayer of the data, and a lot of the recording systems are on fiber lines that our IT department also manages. So it's not a standalone system, but it definitely is the primary system. So just quickly again, the current Cambium links that we have are at end of life. The support is at end of life. There's no more firmware to be had, no new equipment or parts that they can find. And we know that at some point one will malfunction, and when that does happen, we don't want it to happen. We want to replace them before they malfunction, and that we're out not without emergency radio traffic. So when we talk about pricing, how much they're going to cost, it's going to be about $350,000. We asked Motorola if they would essentially do it for us, as they're the ones that have the infrastructure. Again, when we talked to them last year about the maintenance, and their quote was about $1.2 million. So they're roughly saying they're 3 times higher than their vendor that they would sell it out to. So instead of giving Motorola that $700,000, we're just going to stick with Baycom and have them do it directly, which is who would do it in the first place for $350,000. Baycom is our authorized sole source provider for our radio equipment. It's super technical and very secure authorized access. So Baycom is working in concert with both us and Outagamie County. Like I said, Outagamie shares the system, and they are replacing theirs in 2021 as well. except they have 7, so they have a bigger bill than we have. We only have 4. So Baycom is working on putting projects together for both us and Outagamie at the same time. We talked about mixing and matching and replacing pieces, or maybe doing 2 in 1 year and 2 in another year, but they admit that that would require additional engineering costs, and fiscally it just doesn't make sense to spend the extra money to spread this out over more than 1 calendar year. Additionally, knowing that Outagamie is going to be replacing theirs at the same time, we can ensure that the structure and the integrity of the project and that the system remains intact. One further point, the actual climbing of the tower themselves are very weather dependent. Obviously, they're not going to do it when there's any chance of any lightning or any adverse weather at all. And coordinating those tower climbs is super expensive. So when we do it, we're going to do it all together at the same time with Outagamie. They bring in a crew from Illinois, and they're able to time them all out so that all 11 are going to get done at the same time. And we're hoping that that might save us a little bit of money, but we're not quite sure yet. So that's part of the plans, but that's about where we're at. And these last 2 slides that I have up here are really just what you will see in the CIP book that Ms. Fitzgerald provides later. And you'll see this in the 21 CIP section. And it's not terribly technical. It's really just an overview. But it's what we just talked about here. So when you see this language about Motorola P25, the P25 is a federal standard that we had to comply with, and all of our systems will be in compliance then with that standard. So that's really the highlights. So there you go.
Very good. Thank you, Captain Nora. I will open it up for any questions. Any questions from any fellow supervisor? I see one.
We can't hear you, Shiloh.
Shiloh, you're muted.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. I thought I had unmuted myself, but I must have missed it. I appreciate you letting me know. So we will open it up for questions.
Shiloh, you're still muted.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. I'm clicking it, but it wasn't happening. So thank you, Supervisor Powers. I can always count on you. I appreciate that. So we'll open it up for questions. I'll call on Supervisor Buck, followed by Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for this presentation. Heard about Outagamie County, any correspondence with Fond du Lac, with Waushara, Wapaka, Green Lake County? Are they doing this stuff at the same time? Is this something that we can, obviously they're a little smaller in size, but do they use the same providers as Outagamie, or any correspondence with those other counties? And thank you again.
Yeah, we don't share a system with them. We have fiber that runs to Outagamie, and it's been like that for several years. We could look into that, but realistically, microwaves operate on line of sight and it's distance. So when you talk about shooting a microwave down to Fond du Lac, the city of Fond du Lac from Winnebago County, it's a much greater distance than Fairview Tower to the city of Appleton, which is about 6.4 miles. So a lot of it is very specific to geography, which is why Outagamie actually has 7, because they have to go all the way up into half of the Oneida Reservation is in Outagamie County. So they've got some geographical differences up there, but it's just not something that we've ever done with any of the other counties.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Buck. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Shorsey, followed by Supervisor Brunn. Please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank both Sheriff Motz and Lara, Captain Mendola, for an excellent presentation, professional proposal that is easy to handle and as a supervisor and make a good decision. So I want to just thank them for this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. Next speaker is Supervisor Brunn. Please go ahead, Supervisor Brunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to comment on Supervisor Buck's statement about going from other counties. At one time, the Sheriff's Department did have a consortium of Brown County, Calumet County, and Outagamie County called Foxcom. It was a big project, bigger than even this one. And eventually everybody started pulling out because of control issues, and sometimes even the finances were better without somebody. So I always believe that the Sheriff's Department has been having that in interest to change, go with other jurisdictions for cost and I guess reliability. But in this case, I'm sure that the sheriff and his staff have looked at everything they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunn. Seeing no other call-ins, we'll go ahead and conclude the presentation. I want to say thank you, Captain Vinola, and thank you, Sheriff Motz, both for being here as well as for the information and presentation. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That is the zoning reports and ordinances. We have 3 of them this evening. So the first one is report number 001, Naomi E. and Thomas N. Rovnick, Town of Black Wolf. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of report number 001.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 001. Any discussion from any supervisor? If so, please go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to amendatory ordinance number 120120, rezoning from A2 general agriculture to R1 rural residential, tax parcel number 004-0497-03. Once again, call on Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of the mandatory ordinance number 120120.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 120120. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next item. That's report number 002, Audrey I. Patoka Revocable Trust and Darren Kuhn, Town of Neenah. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for report number 2.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve report number 002. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to amendatory ordinance number 120220, rezoning from I1 light industrial, B3 regional business, to B3 regional business for tax parcel number 010-0151-05. Once again, I'll call on Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for mandatory ordinance number 120220 for parcel 010-0151-05.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve amendatory ordinance number 120220. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
I had my hand up.
Yep. Are you a nay, Supervisor Nussbaum?
Say that again?
Are you a no vote, Supervisor Nussbaum?
No, I had my hand up to speak.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, we didn't finish the vote, so please go ahead, Supervisor Nussbaum. We'll vote again.
I'm on the Town of Neenah Plan Commission, and this came up before them, and I was up in Michigan at that time, so I wasn't at the meeting. But they said that they authorized this with conditions, with the condition of a buffer, and also they had to have a special town board meeting to get this back to planning and zoning in time, but the report says that there was no response by the Town of Neenah, but they actually had a special meeting in order to get this back in time. So something something went screwy. And they said that this was the second time that this happened. So, you know, I'd like to know what the problem is.
I'll call on Vice Chairperson Egan. Any information in regards to his question?
All we can go by is what committee gives us, and they told us that they hadn't heard anything back from them whatsoever on the second one. So if it's happening, it's something happening not in committee, I shouldn't say. It's happening in the office. The committee can just take what information they have and go from there.
All right, thank you. I voted yes, by the way.
Thank you. And Supervisor Nussbaum, so just to clarify, we got a notice from zoning just recently that does say what you're referring to, that the town of Neenah responded in favor of this change. That wasn't necessarily known by the committee, as Vice Chairperson Egan was referring to, but you're accurate in what you're saying, so thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Any other discussion in regards to a mandatory ordinance number 120220? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the final item under zoning reports and ordinances. That's a mandatory ordinance 120320, Town of Utica, on behalf of Marek Potratz for zoning change from A2 General Agriculture to RR Single Family Residential for tax parcel number 024-0186. I'll call on Vice Chairperson Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of mandatory ordinance 120320.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve a mandatory ordinance 120320. Any discussion from any supervisor? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. And that motion carries unanimously. And just so we're all on the same page when we're voting, if I say any opposed say nay, if you can't tell if I've heard you, but you're a nay vote, then at that time just raise your Zoom hand, and then, because I'm always looking on there, and I'm calling you to clarify your vote. So just so we're all on the same page when we're doing those voice votes. So that concludes zoning reports and ordinances. So we'll move to resolutions and ordinances. And I just want to point out one clarification on the numbering, because on the agenda, the numbering is not quite correct. So I want everyone to take note of the resolution numbers. So we need to change the numbers. It does not change the resolutions at all, but there were some typo change in terms of the numbers. So the first resolution where it says resolution number 103, that's actually 108. So if you could please all change that 103 to 108 on the first resolution. And then on the next two resolutions, we need to change the number 2. So on the next resolution which is at the top of the second page, where it says resolution number 104, that is actually 109. Once again, it doesn't change anything with the resolution or the body of it, but the numbers are incorrect. So resolution 104, please change the number to 109. And then the third one, which is the second to last, resolution number 106, that should say 110. Okay, so the third resolution, number 106, should say 110. Just wanted to make sure, and when I refer to them this evening, I will refer to those corrected numbers to try to keep everyone on the same page with the actual numbers that they should be. So we have 4 resolutions this evening. The first one on the bottom of the first page is resolution number 108. Authorize the Winnebago County Parks Department to accept a donation in the amount of $1,705 to purchase and install a memorial bench on the Wyowash Trail. For that, I will call on Supervisor Konetsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask for the approval of resolution 108-2020 12/2020.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 108-112020. Any discussion? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Seeing none, we'll do a voice. Supervisor Finch? Did I see that you were trying to speak? No? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic, Supervisor Finch. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
Okay, for family reasons, I will be abstaining on this vote.
Thank you for letting us know, Supervisor Finch. We'll make sure that that's an abstention for Supervisor Finch. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
I saw Paul Eisen's hand up.
Supervisor Eisen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Konecki pronounced it correct, but you seem to have missed it. It's resolution number 108-122020. And the same is with 9 and 10. If you examine the amended agenda.
You are absolutely correct, Supervisor Eisen. So the resolution is 108-122020. Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. So we're going to voice vote one more time with this. So resolution number 108-122020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
That motion carries with one abstention by Supervisor Finch. And as Supervisor Eisen said, so one more clarification, I appreciate that Supervisor Eisen mentioned that. So the next resolution, just so everyone is on the same page, is 109-122020. And then the following resolution after it is resolution number 110-122020. So thank you, Supervisor Eisen, for that clarification. So we move on to the second resolution, which is on top of the second page. That's resolution number 109-122020. For that, they authorize the execution of airport ground lease assignment for Sonics aircraft between Jeremy LLC and Betty LLC. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Gabbard. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I move for the approval of resolution 109-122020.
Is there a second? There is a second. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on resolution number 109-122020? If so, just go ahead and raise your Zoom hand. Supervisor Gabbard, anything further on your end?
Yes, if anyone needs an explanation, Director Schell is here to explain it. It's simply a name change of the same business. They're just changing their name. The lease is not changing.
Thank you for that clarification, Supervisor Gabbard. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries. Moving on down to the next resolution. That's resolution number 110-122020. Authorize execution of airport lease between the Federal Aviation Administration and Winnebago County. For that, once again, I'll call on Supervisor Gabbard.
Thank you. I move for approval of resolution 110-122020.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 110-122020. Any discussion? Supervisor Gabbard, please go ahead.
Again, this is for the tower, and this is an annual lease that we have. If you have any other questions want more detail, again, Director Schell is online to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll once again do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the final resolution this evening. That's resolution number 107-12-2020. Create a Diversity Affairs Commission. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of Resolution 107-12-2020.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 107-12-2020. We'll open it up for discussion. First, I'll call on Supervisor Defferting, followed by Supervisor Gabbard. Please go ahead, Supervisor Defferting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. So I know that there was a previous concern from a county resident in regards to what exactly is the strategic plan for this particular commission. And I think looking at the resolution, I do think that it actually does provide, to me, a pretty clear direction on what they plan to do. And that includes, from line 24 down to line 28, expanding visibility of the Diversity Affairs Commission and developing a liaison with the new and existing minority groups, fostering diversity leadership that attracts and retains young adults in our communities, promoting equal and fair access to public services, and promoting school success for minority group children in the K-12 education system. So I think, to me, that that seems pretty clear on what this commission is going to do. I did have some criticism before, because I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't just simply some sort of sham committee that is kind of glad handing each other, saying, "Look at what we're doing," and then there's nothing that's actually going to get done. I do see here that the goals are in this particular second attempt, that the goals are clear and concise. And that the membership of this committee is also spelled out too in the very beginning of the resolution. I do agree with the intent here, and I would like to. I would certainly be curious on when, if we do decide to vote this through, when the commission is going to meet, when their first meeting is going to happen, and I'd like to basically watch this blossom and see if there's any progress that we've made on this, and see if there's any way that we can quantify progress on this, so to prove that this committee is not just something that is that we're doing just to pat ourselves on the back, but that we're actually making substantial change. So with that, I will be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Defferting. Next speaker is Supervisor Gabbard. Please go ahead, Supervisor Gabbard.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. I think that Supervisor Defferting spoke on what I was going to speak on, but my other concern on this commission is that all diverse groups of all ethnic backgrounds are represented. I understand that we have the Hmong population, Hispanic, and the Black population, but nobody ever talks about Native Americans. That is my big concern because of some ancestry I have in that. So I want to make sure that this commission makes sure that there's a representative for that group of ethnic peoples that we have in Winnebago County, and we do have them. So I don't want anybody to get on the commission and say, well, I'm representing this and I'm representing that. I think this commission should represent all of the ethnic groups and not just the ones so named. So I think that they're going to do this, and I think a lot of us will be watching to make sure that this is a success because it needs to be. So at that point, I will be voting for this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. Next speaker is Supervisor Eisen, followed by Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Eisen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make what I view as a friendly amendment to fine tune this resolution as I had looked it over. However, I get the vibes that maybe there's some dissonance in what I have to say, but I would like to amend the resolution by on line 9 to appoint, have the county executive make the appointments, as with all other commissions and boards in the county. I would like to, on line 13 and 14, to add some whereas identifying the educator from the Extension Committee, and I'm told by the Extension Chairman, Tom Snyder, that there is a human services specialist who also works with the diversity issue. On line 16, where commission is to be accountable to the Extension Committee, I believe it should be to the county board, and further on at line 32, be it further resolved that the
typically we'd be traveling around the country.
Educator and the specialists, as part of their duties, to be assigned to the Diversity Commission. And in this way, they would provide the expertise that's needed to fine-tune the operation. Also, on line 16, or on line 19, I would like to substitute should for shall, because if the county board is the unit that is reported to, you can't tell the county board you have to do this. You request the county board to do it because they're going to vote on it. And with that, I'm under the impression that the clerk had distributed copies of that amendment, and I would like to seek out someone to second it so that it can be discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
There's a second, so we are now on that amendment. Supervisor Eisen, I'm going to go ahead and try to reword some of these to see if we're all on the same page and see if, because a couple of the amendments I think need some clarification of the wording. So I've written down some wording, and you tell me if it's in the spirit of what you were looking for on a couple of them, okay? So I'll reread the amendment. So on line 9, it would be clear that the words county board chair would be replaced by county executive. On line 14, before that whereas, there would be another whereas saying, whereas an individual should be identified as the UW Extension Community Educator for the Commission. I believe that's what you meant, but and you please correct me if I'm wrong after we go through this. And then on line 16, where it says accountable to the UW Education Extension and Agriculture Committee, you would replace UW Education Extension and Agriculture Committee with the words county board. On line 19, after bylaws, the word shall would be changed with should. And then on line 32, there would be another line saying, be it further resolved that a community educator and outreach specialist, as part of their duties, be assigned to the Diversity Commission. Is that the amendment? Is that accurate with what your amendment is, Supervisor Eisen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second for that. So that is what is on the table for discussion going forward until we resolve a vote on the amendment. So I will call on Supervisor Norton specifically in regards to the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't find about this amendment until like 20 minutes before the meeting, but I will speak to a few of them. The reason this is I brought this forth, and the reason I had the county board chairman make the appointments is because I took this idea of such a commission to the county executive a couple of years ago, and he kind of like said, well, Mike, if you find support for it, a need for it, I'll support it. Well, since then, in August of 2019, I started on this project of getting this commission started. One of my ideas was to get a group together in August, and we brought the chairman of the Marathon County Diversity Commission here, and the chairman of the board, you were one of them, along with Supervisors Gordon and Bender. And that's why I put the county board chairman who appoints this. The county board chairman does appoint the citizen members both to the IES committee and to the land conservation committee. The other point I don't think is really needed, where he puts in language for the community educator. If he would talk to us and knew what we were doing, he would know that Amanda Dornfield, who, when this gets approved, would be, I hope I'm not misquoting Supervisor Snyder, would be kind of like overseeing this, and she'd be the coordinator of this. And working with her would be Beth Roberts, who has, for the last, ever since that August meeting, has been putting together a group of individuals to talk about diversity issues. They'll would be very involved, and I don't think it's really needed because they will be involved, whether it's part of it or not. I don't know if we can add duties to someone's job proposal by doing this. That's okay. To update on this, I can answer both Supervisor Defferting's and Gabbard's proposal. Brian, I can't tell you when the commission is going to meet because I don't know who's going to be on commission. I can tell you and Mary Beth Gabbard, Supervisor Gabbard, that this group that Beth Roberts had been meeting all the way up until May, who the last time they met had a diversity dialogue and had over 60 members on it, are committed to having meetings in the new year, the first Thursday, I think, of every month. And if you read the resolution, and Tom Snyder, you correct me if I'm wrong, the ideal is that this large group can meet, they can talk about issues, they can talk about what can be done, help diversity issues, help equity issues in the community, and then this other group will look at the proposals and maybe act on them. That's how it's going to be acted on. It will be reported to a committee. That's what I thought when I proposed this. It's going to UW Extension because in Marathon County, that's where they started. So I hope I've answered a couple of questions of what Supervisor Defferting and Gabbard had, and I think I've answered the question why I think this amendment is not needed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. I'm going to call next first on Supervisor Snyder, just to answer the informational question. I believe he has some information as the chair of UW Extension, and we're going to go to Supervisor Fari. So please, Supervisor Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What Supervisor Norton said is pretty accurate, but also on the line, I have Chris View from the Extension Coordinator. So if it's all right with you guys, if he's still there and can unmute, I'd like him to speak to some of these. And the most important one would be, adding to the, Mandy Dornfield and Mia Young do not actually work for the county, they work for Extension. And we really can't add items to their job descriptions If you're there, Chris, can you jump in?
Supervisor Snyder, if first I want to give the opportunity to Supervisor Fari to speak, and then you're up right after that, then we'll allow Chris View to speak, okay?
Well, the only reason I asked for him to speak now is he's got some time constraints, and I see he's
very good. If that's the case, I'm going to honor that then, if that's the case, okay.
I appreciate that. I owe you one, Shiloh.
Right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I would like to just address the concern that with the specifically the amendment naming for the new line 32 with the community educator. Extension is very strongly in support of access and inclusion issues, as we are the vehicle of the Wisconsin idea from the University of Wisconsin system, and we want to make sure that university resources have an opportunity to reach all of the citizens of the state of Wisconsin and all the residents of Winnebago County as well. By naming a specific educator, we feel it would limit the efforts, partially because the specific educator that is named, is very supportive and likely would have a role in supporting the strategic plan that still needs to be created by the group. That individual is a split appointment across 2 counties and also has statewide commitments, and that potentially could very much slow the work of this group by naming that specific individual. Long term, the concern about naming specific individuals and roles is that if there are vacancies that occur, then they have specific named responsibilities, and they could potentially limit the work of the organization moving forward, because it does take time to in many cases to fill those vacancies. As Supervisor Snyder also represented, there are some concerns. The long-standing partnership with Winnebago County and Extension is just that, it's a partnership in which the staff are employees of the University of Wisconsin Madison Division of Extension, working in Winnebago County to provide outreach education in their respective areas of expertise. And that could be problematic moving forward with someone who may have limited time constraints or other program focuses as they move forward. So thank you for allowing me to share those concerns. I do have a couple more minutes to hang on the line if there are some further clarifications that are required.
Thank you very much for your comments. We'll next go to Supervisor Fari. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Specific to Mr. Eisen's points here, I would certainly agree with the county board chair, that is line number 9. I believe the rules clearly state that boards and commissions are the priority of the county exec and not the county board chair. County board chair appoints for committees. So I believe that certainly should be corrected. In addition, on line 19, substituting the word shall for should is probably a correct point. On those 2, I certainly would support amending it beyond Supervisor Eisen's amendment. So how would you like me to address that, Mr. Chairman? Do you want an amendment to amend the amendment?
So thank you, Supervisor Fari. What I would suggest, because I did note your point about actually with the county executive and boards and commissions as well. What I'd suggest is we allow the debate for this amendment. If it passes, your concerns are addressed because those would be in there. If they're not, if it doesn't pass, then we'll give you the opportunity to offer an amendment after this is voted up or down. Thank you, Supervisor Fari. Next, I'll call on Supervisor Wingren.
Come on, Bill.
Supervisor Wingren? Oh, I don't want to participate. And if you could,
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can hear you now.
All right. Thank you. I would like to agree with Mr. Farr. I think those two changes are legitimate. The rest of it, to me, is pure nitpicking. This whole proposal was well thought out by those that presented it. I did not receive any notice of a huge change in nitpicking, I call it. My concern is with the council itself or the commission itself. Is this going to be, as Mr. Deputy worries about, just a feel-good kind of thing? We're going to sit in the rocking chair and rock. Oh, look at that. We got a lot of movement, but we're not going anywhere. Recently, not somewhat recently, this board approved a special committee to deal with the census in 2020. Members were appointed. I don't think the issue was ever addressed again, at least with the full board. Oh, we felt good. We were doing something, but nothing happened. I expect, because of the people that are promoting this, Mr. Norton and others, that this committee will do a good job. That they will do a good job. So without the nitpicking and with the changes that Mr. Farr proposes, I think that this is a good thing.
Thank you, Supervisor Winter. Next speaker is Supervisor Snyder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Extension Committee has no objection to the line 9 replacing the board chair with the executive, because that really is the rule. And although we feel that shall is the correct word there, we could live with should. But I really would like to see this board, I can't put it any other way. I'm going to be voting no on the Eisen amendments. And then if it comes back through Fari with the line 9 and the line 19, I will be voting in favor of that.
Thank you, Supervisor Snyder. Next speaker is Supervisor Rasmussen. Please go ahead, Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also agree with potential change of number 19, line 19 with shall be. You're asking us to vote on something that we haven't seen. So that part also I agree with this amendment on that one line. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Seeing no other call-ins, we'll go to a vote on the amendment as presented by Supervisor Eisen. We will first do a voice vote. If there is not clarity, then we will go to a roll call vote. So when you're voting aye, you are voting on the amendment changes that Supervisor Eisen related to line 9, changing County Board Chair to County Executive. Line 14 to add a line saying whereas an individual should be identified as the UW Extension Community Educator for the Commission. On line 16, you would change UW Education Extension Agriculture Committee to County Board. On line 19, you would change the word shall to should. And then there would be an additional line 32, which would say, be it further resolved that a community educator and outreach specialist, as part of their duties, be assigned to the Diversity Commission. That's what we're voting on now. So we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
We're going to go ahead, I think it failed, but we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Supervisor Eisen did put a significant amount of time in this, so let's do a roll call vote to clarify the vote on all the room.
Supervisor Konetsky?
Supervisor Konetsky?
Aye.
Aye. Supervisor Brunn?
Aye.
Is that an aye? Okay.
Yeah.
Supervisor Borchert?
No.
No. Supervisor Eisen?
Aye.
Supervisor Ramos?
Nay.
Supervisor Defferding?
Nay.
Supervisor Lenz?
Nay.
Supervisor Newhoff?
Nay.
Supervisor Nussbaum?
Nay.
Supervisor Spellman?
Nay.
I couldn't hear that. No. Supervisor Albrecht?
Aye.
Supervisor Gabbard? Couldn't hear that. Supervisor Bender?
No.
Supervisor Conrad?
No.
Supervisor Shorsey?
Aye.
Supervisor Belmonte?
Nay.
Supervisor Gordon?
Nay.
Supervisor Wingren?
Nay.
Supervisor Lautenschlager?
Nay.
Supervisor Norton?
Nay.
Supervisor Warnke?
Nay.
Supervisor Zelmer?
Nay.
Supervisor Skellinger?
Nay.
Supervisor Buck?
Nay.
No. Supervisor Powers?
Nay.
Supervisor Locke?
Supervisor Law?
Supervisor Cox?
Mine was nay.
Oh,
On
okay,
block.
thank you. Supervisor Cox? Supervisor Finch?
Supervisor Finch?
Supervisor Youngquist?
Nay.
Supervisor Fari?
Nay.
Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
I couldn't hear that.
Supervisor Rasmussen, one more time with your vote?
That was an aye, yes.
Aye.
Yes. Supervisor Keller?
No.
Supervisor Egan?
No.
Supervisor Ellis?
No.
Supervisor Snyder?
No.
Supervisor Jose?
No.
That was a no? Okay.
Amendment. It's gonna be no.
You had 5 to 28? Okay, 5 ayes, 28 no.
That motion fails 5 yes votes to 28 no votes. I will next call on Supervisor Fari first, followed by Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer the follow amendment to Resolution 107-12-2020. Specifically, line 9, delete the words County Board Chairman and substitute County Executive. Line 19, delete the word shall and add the word should. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. There is a motion and a second, so that is the amendment on the floor for debate going forward. Any discussion in regards to the amendment? So once again, on line 9, to replace the words County Board Chair with County Executive. Line 19, to delete shall and change and add should. Any discussion in regards to those amendments? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay.
No.
With 1 no vote, that motion carries. So we're now back on the main resolution as amended with those 2 changes. Any further discussion? I'll first call on Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm afraid I am going to have to say no to this resolution for the following reasons. One, this fairly significant idea has not was not part of the 21 budget process discipline. And I would think what appears to be a potential for a major program would have to go through that process before coming to the board. Number two, I don't believe there's been any real justification for the program presented, and it kind of segueing to Bill Wingren's comments. I know that this is a bandwagon thing right now, and I haven't, at least nothing has been presented to convince me as a board supervisor to support the program. We need some numbers, we need some problem statements, we need a full proposal. I kind of think it's ironic too, I chuckled about this one, and the mention of a strategic plan for this commission when the Winnebago County Board does not even have a strategic plan, which is part of the problem, that these kinds of things come along and they just come out of, you know, out of the air or wherever Supervisor Norton decides to bring them in. I think definitely in terms of priority, jobs and quality of life will attract people from all segments of society to live in our community. And I do think from my perspective, that's a bigger priority than some of these other things that don't have a lot of meat to them. And I guess one of the most important things from my perspective is that in fact, I went online and I looked at municipalities because I know Oshkosh instituted a committee for this purpose. And there are several municipalities in the area that already have people working on this issue. I think it's fine that someone from the county is a collaborative partner, but for us to establish a commission, I think is really too much overlap. And I also am concerned because organizations in our community have been doing programming and changing policies and that sort of thing for years around this subject. So again, I think it appears to me as something that is more of a political bandwagon thing than it is a real necessity. And I'm always in favor of making everyone feel welcome in our community and to make sure that our policies and our practices don't create barriers for people. So I am going to vote no, and I hope that the majority of you will join me. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. Next speaker is Supervisor Bender, followed by Supervisor Norton. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
I'll just say one thing that we accomplished when we were working as a group. The Hmong and the people that speak Spanish, all our brochures were printed in English. And even though they could speak English, some of them would be like broken English, they couldn't really read our brochures for some of the benefits that we had to offer. So Beth Roberts was able to get those printed in Hmong and Spanish. So that was one thing that we managed to accomplish as a group. As far as the committee goes, how do we know what we're going to accomplish when we don't even know who's going to be on the committee? I mean, I myself personally, I can see like with this being out of school for this long period of time, there's going to be an awful lot of kids that are going to need help. And we have to instill to them that education is the most important thing to them. If they can't get a high school education, they're not going to go nowhere in this society. I mean, that's the bare minimum. If you want to get a job at Oshkosh Truck, you want to get a job at Bemis, you've got to have a high school education. And these kids are behind. If we can't help them, I don't know where they're going to get the help from. You know, the parents, they're basically, some of them didn't have that great education. So they're falling behind the cracks. And I realize the city of Oshkosh is starting a program up. We're starting a program up. And there's so many people out there that need help. We could use all the help we could get to reach those students and get them maybe into a mentorship program where somebody can help them with their math, somebody can help them with their English, show them where it is that they need to go to get this stuff. I mean, it's essential that basically we're here to give them support and instill to them. The first thing you want to do is get a good education. And then you start a family. and you go on from there. You know, this is something that the county needs, and we really need to get on board and give them people the help that they need. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Bender. Next speaker is Supervisor Norton, followed by Supervisor Powers. Please go ahead, Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am a little disturbed when another supervisor says I'm joining the bandwagon. I started this effort way before this bandwagon movement, as she calls it. I started this effort in the spring of 2019, even before that. I started this effort because of when I was talking to then the Vice Chancellor of Diversity Affairs for the university. This is not a bandwagon issue with me, Supervisor Scorsese. This is an issue that I think has to be brought up. I think these issues, and we have to listen to the people of the different diversities in our community, because that's the only way our community is going to grow. We heard from two of them tonight who spoke in favor of this. Yimeng and Tanisha were both people of diversity, and one's been involved in a different diversity groups. I think this is much needed. I totally agree with Supervisor Bender when he says, I don't know what this is going to, what it's going to do in the future. But I tell you, Supervisor Scorsese and others who are criticized, I wish you would have been on this last call, the diversity dialogue we had back in May. We had over 60 people. We had two of the best preventers of why we need something like this. And we had a lot of input from different people from the community telling what they'd be willing to work on to help with diversity issues and equity issues in this county. This is much needed. It really is. And yes, other cities and communities like Oshkosh have done it. I don't know if it's bandwagon or not, but they're doing it. City of Green Bay is just had a equal rights ordinance. I mean, it's time to do things. It's time to that. I'm going to say this. 35 of us are white Anglo-Saxons or white, and I think it's about time that we find a way to reach out to people of diversity, of color, of religion, of other things, and this is what this commission will do. I think it is far needed, and it has been needed for a long time, and a positive step to keep this community growing. That's why Marathon County, where I learned about this, where basis phone, that's why they started it, because it was a part of their strategic plan. And to your point, Supervisor Scorsese, when you say we don't have a plan for the county, well, maybe you should start the effort to do that, okay? I encourage each and one of you to pass this and move forward, and we can start doing positive things in this county and make things better for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. Next speaker will be Supervisor Powers, followed by Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to, I strongly object to Supervisor Shorsey taking cheap shots by name to our colleague, Supervisor Norton, with comments like his ideas are coming out of his wherever. I'm really disgusted by this.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. Next speaker is Supervisor Shorsey. Please go ahead, Supervisor Shorsey.
My apology if I've insulted anyone. But I'm accustomed to ideas coming to the board without a proper discipline, and that is upsetting to me. Keep in mind that I spent a lot of my career working with communities, agencies around issues in our community, and for years between the university, the county, the city, individual companies, service organizations, they have all been focused on professional surveys we've had done in this community, and that show us where the problem areas can be found. So this is nothing new, and we have had programs in place, and I really, my biggest problem, as I said, is that there's been no proposal that shows us the evidence that there's more that we can do as a community. And yes, inequities probably exist, but this proposal or this resolution is coming to the board without any discipline about what it's going to be and what it's going to do, who are going to be the partners, what is it going to cost. and that sort of thing. I'm very much in favor of advancing our community in all ways. But this is, again, I believe this is more of a feel-good thing, and we've lacked the discipline in having a proper proposal to show us where is the need and where is the problem. So I will stand firm on my opinion that this is at least not the time without the discipline of doing a proper plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. Next speaker is Supervisor Finch, followed by Supervisor Gabbard. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
Thank you. The reason I'm doing this is I want, if we're going to do this, I want it done not only in Oshkosh, but Neenah Menasha, Village of Fox Crossing, Winnebago, and Amaro. Too many times we just do something like this or this nature in one area, and the rest of the communities don't be able to take advantage of what we have to offer them. So if we go through this, which I hope we do, I want it done for all of Winnebago County, not just a short amount of people. Am I making myself clear?
Thank you, Supervisor Finch.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Supervisor Gabbard, followed by Supervisor Snyder. Please go ahead, Supervisor Gabbard.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Just a quick comment. I'm all for diversity, but I don't want people on this commission that are going to sit at meetings and not accomplish anything. And they're going to talk. So I'm really worried about who is going to be on this commission. You can have a lot of leaders from a lot of different areas, but it's the people who need the help that are diversified that we want to reach. If you don't listen to them, but you think that they need something that you think they need as a commissioner on this commission, you're missing the whole point, because you can talk till you're blue in the face and not accomplish anything. And I feel if we don't get the right people on this commission, this will fail. And I'm really worried about that. I'm giving you a vote of confidence, but I'm fearful that if you get someone who's a director of a diversity department at a university, wonderful, but what about the person that needs the help? How about getting some of them on this commission? Maybe Joe Public wouldn't be so bad. Maybe somebody from the Hmong community, maybe somebody from the Black community that is not a government official or a titled person, that they could sit and give you their perspective on this instead of having them come to a meeting as a participant. Put them on the commission. So you folks who are going to put this together and have this commission, you have to have a plan. I don't see that you do have a plan, but you're saying you do have a plan. I don't want this to fail. We've had times where we've done things and it's failed because we don't listen to the people who need the help. So please keep that in mind when you appoint people to this commission. You can have a lot of leaders, but nothing gets done. So don't forget the people in the community that need the help, that are in the action day to day and say, help me, you don't understand me, we need this and that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. Next speaker is Supervisor Snyder, followed by Supervisor Finch. Please go ahead, Supervisor Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mary Beth and Vicki, we hear you both. That's one of the reasons why we started out with a bigger, what I would call an advisory committee, and we kind of pared that down. We want up to 1 million people to participate, but we don't need a lot of cooks. What we need is a smaller board to be kind of like a clearinghouse, to listen, to bring things forward, and so we can act on them. Everything we do, this resolution is to create the commission, and then we will, as soon as we get it populated, we will decide on how best to address all of the concerns that I've been listening to tonight. It is absolutely necessary, but as a pretty famous guy once said, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And this resolution, creating the commission, is the first step. The fruits of their labors will come back to us. Will come back to this board. We'll have a chance to weigh in on them at that time. But it's time we get moving. Every time we postpone it, every time we try to amend it, is a delay that we really don't need. These needs are critical, and they are the fruits of the labor of this commission is needed now. We got to get going. So I implore all my fellow supervisors to vote yes on this, and let's get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Snyder. Next speaker is Supervisor Finch, followed by Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things. Tom, I like it. First off, yes, I'll vote for it. Second off, if there's any possibility, I would like to be on the committee. I know it's asking for a lot, but if there's a possibility, I'd like to be on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next speaker is Supervisor Bender. Please go ahead, Supervisor Bender.
I'd just like to say that, you know, when we met as a group, there are 3 people of color that represent 3 different nationalities that were involved every meeting. That they're speaking for their people in their community. And before this COVID thing came, we were going to go as a group up to Appleton, and they were going to show us how they have to basically commute, the people that don't have a lot of money. They wanted us to go up there and basically ride the bus to see how their life really is, because we don't realize how those people's lives are. We're used to getting in our $40,000 or $60,000 car and driving to work and basically having money in our wallet. And they wanted us to see this. This is how we commute to work. You know, you wait for the bus. They wanted us to go into their grocery stores and see how they're treated. They're treated different than we are. When I ask somebody where something is, most of the time they'll take me to that product. When they ask where something is, they're lucky if they get the people to even answer them, let alone show them where it is. You know, it's something that we have to wake up and see. We don't see the discrimination because we don't live it. You know, we live in our nice subdivisions and everybody treats us good with respect, but the people that don't have a lot, they get treated a whole lot different. And it's about time we address those problems and try to help them as much as we can.
Thank you, Supervisor Bender. Seeing no other call-ins, we'll go to a vote. So just to clarify for everyone, it is the resolution from the UW Education Extension and Agricultural Committee as amended, where on line 9, the county board chair would be changed with county executive in terms of the appointments to the commission. And then on line 19, the word shall would be changed to should. So that is what we are voting on, that resolution as amended. Unless there's an objection, we'll first try a voice vote. If there's not clarity, we will go to a roll call vote. So we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
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 So that motion carries by voice vote. So that concludes our agenda for this evening. So I will go ahead and call on Supervisor Albrecht for a motion to adjourn to January 5th. Supervisor Albrecht?
And move to adjourn till January 5th.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn to January 5th special orders. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. We are adjourned, everyone. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful holiday and Christmas, everyone.
Thank you to all my brothers and sisters on the board, and Merry Christmas.
As well, Supervisor.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, everyone.